At 14:07 local time, the Combat Information Center aboard USS Abraham Lincoln falls silent. Not peaceful silent, the other kind. A sharp mechanical tone slices through the room, unmistakable and urgent. A radar warning, the kind that only repeats when it absolutely must. On the main display, a fresh track appears at the edge of the screen. Then another. Then two more. Fast, high, no transponder. The watch officer never raises his voice. He does not need to. The system is already moving ahead of him. Vectors lock in, speed values climb, altitude drops, the geometry tightens by the second. Multiple airborne contacts bearing 035 closing. No one reacts to the first call. No one has to. This is not some random anomaly. This is recognition. The ship has seen this pattern before, just never this clean, never this deliberate. Above on the flight deck, motion pauses. A handler stops mid-step, one hand still gripping a tie-down chain. Wind carries the exhaust of the carrier's own aircraft circling overhead, but no launch order comes. No topside alarm breaks the air. Below deck, steel hums as systems shift. Condition 3 is set. No drama, no ceremony. Watertight doors cycle. Consoles brighten across the boards. The tracks sharpen. Identification resolves. Su-35, not 1, 2, then 4. As they close, the contacts split. 2 hold altitude. 2 dive hard, noses pointed toward the sea, slipping toward the radar horizon. It is textbook work, vertical separation, lateral spread, a formation built to force choices. The E-2D Hawkeye overhead confirms what the ship already knows. Independent sensors agree. This is not a pass, this is not curiosity, this is a targeting approach. At 14 miles, the first Su-35 rolls slightly left, just enough to bring its nose across the carrier's bearing. Fire control geometry begins to settle into place. On Lincoln, the radar warning receiver tightens its tone. Somewhere between the decks, time seems to compress. The carrier does not turn. It does not add speed. It does not speak. That silence is intentional. Another Su-35 lights afterburner. The plume flashes white-hot against the blue, visible even through deck cameras. Its closure rate jumps. The distance starts falling. 12 miles. 11. On the bridge, the captain studies the plot without expression. No conference is needed. The ship's posture is already right. Every option remains open because nothing has been committed. Contact is painting, the electronic warfare officer reports. Active emissions focused. Not a sweep, a lock. That is the threshold. Weapon parameters begin to populate on screen. Not releases, not yet. Just the math that comes before. Angles, intercept windows. Seconds carved into probability. The kind of numbers that do not care about flags or intentions. The low pair of Su-35s sink even farther, riding the curve of the sea. Their returns flicker, vanish, then reappear closer than expected. They are making the ship's sensors work harder, faster. Pressure applied with precision. Still, Lincoln holds steady. No radio call, no warning transmitted. The silence here is not restraint, it is control. The strike group tightens internally. Destroyers and cruisers adjust by degrees, not miles. Everything stays inside the plan. At 8 miles, the lead Su-35 snaps its nose upward for a moment, exposing its full profile. The fire control picture sharpens. For a split second, the screen shows what the pilot on the other side likely believes is certainty. They think the carrier is blind. They think the carrier is fixed. They think this moment belongs to them. On Lincoln, the clock keeps moving. 7 miles. 6. The radar tone steadies. No longer searching, no longer testing. Locked, focused, committed. This isn't posturing anymore, the watch officer says quietly. He is right. This is a clock. At 14:10, the geometry changes again. The 4 contacts stop advancing as one line and begin separating with intent. 2 Su-35s climb, widening their radar horizon. The other 2 drop lower, accelerating toward the surface, their returns thinning as they slide into sea clutter. A clean pincer, deliberate, measured, built to squeeze. On Lincoln's displays, the tracks stretch apart, then begin curving inward. Range rings tighten. Closure rates spike unevenly by design. One pair eases slightly, forcing the ship's systems to divide attention. The other pair surges ahead, afterburners flaring bright once more. Contacts maneuvering independently, the controller reports. Vertical separation increasing. No one repeats it. No one needs to. Everyone can see it. The radar warning tone changes character. Not louder, not faster, just more certain. The kind of signal that suggests true fire control quality. Out there, somewhere beyond the horizon, an algorithm is solving the same geometry from the other side and arriving at similar answers. Still, the carrier does not react. No speed increase, no turn toward the threat, no broadcast. The flight deck remains still. Aircraft stay chained. Elevators do not move. From above, it might look like hesitation. From inside the ship, it is something very different. At 9 miles, the high pair levels briefly, just long enough to force a recalculation. The low pair cuts right, then left, making small corrections meant to test tracking accuracy. Lincoln's sensors hold them anyway, stitching returns together from multiple apertures without strain. The pincer tightens. Electronic support measures begin to light up. Narrow beams, short bursts, active probing. The signatures are disciplined. Modern fire control radars cycling through modes, looking for the instant the carrier makes a mistake. It does not. To the outside world, the strike group stays dark. Inside, it is anything but. Data moves at machine speed, fused and checked again and again. Every track is confirmed by more than one sensor. Nothing depends on a single image. At 7 miles, the lead Su-35 banks hard, nose swinging back across the carrier's bearing. This time it holds the angle. The lock stays in place. Weapon envelopes now populate fully. No longer theoretical, no longer advisory, viable. Inside the Combat Information Center, nobody rushes, nobody shouts. The watch teams stay exactly where they are. Hands light on controls, eyes fixed on the numbers that matter more than anything outside the hull. Fire control solution confirmed, comes the report. The carrier answers with silence. And that silence starts working against the attackers. The low pair's returns flicker again. Too clean, then too smeared. One pilot corrects, climbing slightly to recover clarity. The other corrects late and overshoots. Their spacing loosens by a fraction. The high pair responds, tightening to restore geometry. It costs them speed. The pincer is still closing, but the symmetry is gone. At 5 miles, Lincoln has not moved. To the Su-35 pilots, that can read as confidence or weakness. There is no way to know which, and that uncertainty starts to bite. Why is the carrier not turning? Why is it not radiating? Why is it not doing anything? There is no time for those questions to settle. 4 miles. The radar tone spikes for an instant, then steadies again. The targeting picture now looks flawless. Too flawless. One of the pilots adjusts again, adds power, tightens the turn to keep the carrier centered. That is when the first anomaly appears. For less than a second, the carrier's signature stretches, elongates, then snaps back. Not gone, not dropped, distorted, subtle enough to dismiss if you are already committed, obvious if you're searching for it. But the pilots are already committed. 3 miles. The high pair starts down, compressing the vertical stack. The formation begins to converge for final geometry, that narrow point where theory becomes action. From their side, the target looks locked, fixed, exposed. On Lincoln, the watch officer glances once at the master clock. Still no commands. Because the ship is not waiting to be struck. It is waiting for something else. At 14, 10, and 30 seconds, the Su-35 crews believe they have the carrier exactly where they want it. They do not realize they are already inside the space where the rules are about to change. At 14:13, the world goes quiet. Not on Lincoln, everywhere else. In one synchronized move, the carrier strike group executes MCON Alpha. Radios fall silent, radars go dark, fire control emitters shut down. Across the electromagnetic spectrum, everything that normally defines a U.S. Navy carrier, heat, noise, data, collapses inward and disappears. Inside USS Abraham Lincoln, nothing vanishes. The picture on the boards becomes cleaner, calmer, more complete. But outside the hull, to anyone watching from a distance, the carrier has effectively stopped existing. The Su-35 pilots feel it before they understand it. The target does not fade, it breaks apart. Where one clean return should be, multiple shapes bloom instead. Offset, staggered, drifting. Radar paints resolve into duplicates, each one the size of a carrier, each one carrying heat and signal patterns that match expectations down to the decimal. Too perfect. The pilots react on instinct because training leaves them no choice. One rolls left to keep the strongest return centered. Another eases throttle to hold range on a second contact that should not exist. The formation stretches again. Now they are not chasing a ship, they are chasing answers designed to look real. Below them, the decoys begin doing exactly what they were built to do. High-fidelity emitters ride the sea, broadcasting carrier-like signatures with disciplined timing. Radar cross-sections, thermal blooms, electromagnetic noise that looks authentic because, in every practical sense, it is. Each one occupies the space Lincoln used to fill. The real carrier is nowhere on their scopes. At altitude, the EA-18G Growlers move into orbit. They do not announce themselves. They do not flood the sky with brute force noise. Their pods wake quietly, slipping into the spectrum with surgical precision. This is not simple jamming. This is authorship. Enemy fire control radars continue operating, confident in the contacts they see, Guidance logic receives clean inputs, range, bearing, velocity, all internally consistent. The numbers are not the problem, the source is. Inside the Growlers, software rewrites what opposing sensors accept as reality. Phase timing shifts by microseconds. Doppler returns bend just enough to pull solutions off-center. The deception is tiny. The effect is enormous. The shifts are tiny, invisible to the human eye, but devastating for an algorithm. The Su-35s start correcting too hard. One pilot tightens his turn to keep the strongest contact centered. Another climbs, trying to recover what he believes is lost target altitude. Their spacing compresses, then stretches again as each aircraft begins following a slightly different version of the truth. Inside Lincoln, the watch team studies the effect without comment. Tracks begin to wobble. Closure rates lose their symmetry. What had looked seconds earlier like a clean pincer now starts to unravel into separate pursuits. They are no longer hunting a ship. They are chasing reflections. At 12,000 feet, a Growler slides laterally, holding the exact geometry needed to keep the illusion alive. Its emissions stay below the point that would trigger suspicion. To the Su-35s, nothing seems different, except that everything is. One pilot notices it first. The carrier appears to move sideways, not forward, not back, sideways. He dismisses it, reacquires, and tightens the lock. The return stabilizes on a decoy designed to be found. Another pilot sees two carriers where there should only be one. He splits the difference, steering between them and trusting the strongest signal. The numbers reward him with consistency, and that consistency is the trap. At 14:13 and 40 seconds, Lincoln remains dark. The strike group keeps formation through inertial reference and internal cueing alone. Destroyers and cruisers make silent adjustments, preserving the illusion from every angle. The opposing picture is complete. It is simply wrong. The Su-35 formation is not a formation anymore. It is 4 aircraft chasing 4 different answers, each convinced the final solution is only seconds away. Their radios fill with clipped calls, corrections, confirmations, fragments of doubt, interrupted by speed and workload. No weapons are released. They do not need to be. The decisive moment is not the trigger. It is the instant, far too late, when someone realizes the target is not where the mind insists it must be. On Lincoln, a single note appears in the log: deception holding. The carrier has not been struck. It has not visibly answered. It has removed itself from the equation. And by doing that, it has placed the attackers exactly where it wants them, inside a hall of mirrors, moving fast, burning fuel, making decisions based on a reality that no longer exists. At 14:13, the hunt is over. The next phase is about to begin. At 14:18, the response starts. There is no announcement, no audible signal, no visible flash from the deck of USS Abraham Lincoln. From the outside, nothing appears to change. Inside the spectrum, everything changes. The EA-18G Growlers shift posture. Their pods move from subtle distortion to direct control. What had been gentle nudges now becomes deliberate rewriting. Guidance logic inside the opposing fire control loop accepts new inputs without resistance. Timing offsets, range shifts, velocity vectors that still appear perfectly logical, just not for the target the pilots believe they are following. The deception hardens. On the Su-35s, radar solutions stabilize on decoys positioned exactly where they are expected to be. Weapon parameters remain valid. Confidence returns. The pilots commit again, tightening their lines and preparing for the point where theory is supposed to become action. That point never arrives. Above the formation, an aircraft they cannot see reaches its station. The F-35 never activates its radar. It does not maneuver aggressively. It holds altitude, nose steady, flying a geometry that keeps it outside every threat envelope, while its sensors quietly absorb the entire scene below. Passive systems gather heat, movement, intent, every detail fused into a targeting picture that no longer needs confirmation. The pilot says nothing. He does not need to. Data leaves the jet in a thin, invisible thread, sliding into the network without triggering a single warning. The information does not go back to the carrier. It does not have to. It goes down. Hundreds of feet below the surface, a Virginia-class attack submarine receives the packet. The exchange is immediate. No ping, no acknowledgement, just certainty. The submarine has been there the entire time. At 14, 18, and 30 seconds, the fire control picture is complete. The crew below does not need to see the aircraft above. They do not need visual confirmation. The targets now exist as vectors and probabilities already resolved. The order comes in a voice that never rises. 2 Mark 48 torpedoes leave their tubes. No flash, no roar, just motion. A sudden, silent surge through dark water. The weapons run cold and fast, guided by data updating in real time, corrections moving through the network faster than human thought. Above, the Su-35s tighten again, still chasing ghosts. One pilot calls for a range check, another adjusts altitude. None of them gets a warning. There is no tone for what is coming. The first disappearance registers only as confusion. A track blinks out. Not fading, not degrading, just gone. The algorithms hesitate, searching for an explanation. None appears. Then the second contact vanishes. On Lincoln's displays, the picture simplifies. 4 tracks become 2. The remaining aircraft scatter instinctively, breaking formation, shedding speed, climbing and diving at once as their pilots try to escape a threat they cannot identify. It no longer matters. The engagement has already been decided. The growlers ease off, letting the spectrum breathe again. Decoy signatures begin fading one by one, sinking back into the background of the sea. The Hall of Mirrors dissolves. What remains is silence. At 1419, the strike group restores select emissions. Not fully, not broadly. Just enough to confirm what the network already knows. The sky is empty. On Lincoln, no one celebrates. There is no outward reaction at all. The carrier never changed course. It never accelerated. It never transmitted a warning. It did not hesitate because hesitation suggests uncertainty. And there was none. The captain watches the plot settle into stillness. The watch officer records the final timestamp. One line appears in the log, precise and unemotional. Airborne threat neutralized. Then the carrier returns to routine as though nothing happened. Flight deck crews begin moving again. A chain rattles across the deck. Somewhere below, a sailor finishes a sentence interrupted minutes earlier. To the outside world, the moment passes unnoticed. No contrails, no dramatic footage, no replay. But the message is delivered with total clarity. The U.S. Navy did not respond loudly. It responded correctly. And by the time the last disturbance fades from the sea, the only sign that anything happened at all is the silence where 4 aircraft used to be. At 1427, the strait settles. The air above the water is empty. No contrails, no returns. The radar picture has the kind of clarity that only appears after something decisive is over. On the displays aboard the carrier, the sky is no longer crowded with vectors and probabilities. It is simply clear. USS Abraham Lincoln holds course. Speed unchanged, heading unchanged, posture steady. From the outside, nothing suggests the previous 20 minutes contained anything beyond routine transit. The carrier's wake stretches behind it in a straight, uninterrupted line. Escorts return to their measured spacing, sliding back into geometry that looks almost ceremonial. Inside the ship, the tempo shifts back to normal without instruction. Flight deck crews move again, boots striking steel in familiar rhythm. A yellow shirt signals a tractor forward. A radio crackles once, then falls quiet. Below deck, machinery settles into its background hum as if it had never changed at all. There is no announcement of victory because nothing was won in the conventional sense. The watch teams remain at their stations, scanning a picture that now shows absence instead of danger. They do not dwell on it. They log it, time, bearing, resolution, facts only. The record does not speculate. What the opposing pilots experienced will never fully appear in that log. They did not lose a traditional dogfight. They were not outmaneuvered in the old sense. They were removed from the decision cycle. They believed they were tracking a carrier. They believed the carrier was exposed. They believed speed and precision would force a reaction. Instead, they found nothing where something should have been. And by the time they understood that the picture no longer obeyed the rules they trusted, it was already too late to ask why. On Lincoln, the captain reviews the final plot once more. The area where the encounter unfolded is now just water again. He gives a single nod, too small to read as satisfaction. The ship continues on. That is the point. This was not a show of aggression. It was not a warning shot. It was the quiet enforcement of a boundary that did not need explanation to be understood. The carrier did not protect itself by striking first. It protected itself by denying the fight entirely. In modern naval warfare, presence is not always measured by what can be seen. Sometimes it is measured by what cannot be touched, cannot be tracked, cannot be engaged. Abraham Lincoln did not endure because it was faster, louder, or more heavily armed in that moment. It endured because it was never where the enemy believed it was. And when the moment came to act, the action did not begin on the deck, or the bridge, or in the sky above. It came from a network, quiet, distributed, already aligned, executing a solution that had been ready long before the first radar tone ever sounded. At 1430, the carrier leaves the period of heightened alert. Condition 3 is relaxed. No announcement marks the transition. No signal is sent beyond the hull. The strike group simply continues its mission, operating in a world where silence can carry more weight than noise ever could. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the implications move outward, unseen and uncaptured. But aboard Lincoln, the day continues. Meals are served. Maintenance resumes. Aircraft cycle. The sea holds no memory of what passed over it minutes earlier. The people who were there do. Not as a tale of spectacle, not as a dramatic clash. As a reminder, that hesitation is not built into the system. That uncertainty is solved long before the critical moment arrives, and that when the U.S. Navy responds, it does so with precision, silence, and finality. The carrier sails on, the strait remains open, and the lesson, delivered without spectacle, travels farther than any signal ever could.